Okay, so I thought that I would do a set review, so went ahead and hopped over to this guy's Toast website. I apologize for the swallowing. I went ahead and hopped over to this guy's Toast website since it has all the cards listed in a fairly nice format to just review them one at a time and knock all of them out. I will say up front, most of my Hearthstone experience is from me playing Hunter. I have taken it to Legend a couple of times. It's generally, to me, not worth the grind. But I am far, far less experienced in most of the other classes. Well, in all of the other classes. But I figured I'd go ahead and do a set review anyway, just, spit out my thoughts on the expansion and my thoughts on, I guess, each individual card. So, with that little intro out of the way, Oaken Summons. I don't know if you can hear my dog barking. No idea what she's barking at. But, Oaken Summons, so 4 mana, gain 6 armor, recruit a minion that costs 4 or less. I think it really depends on how powerful Recruit is and how good of a Druid deck you can make that's really low on 1 and 2 drops. Because I don't think much of gaining 6 armor. Now, it does synergize a bit with some more of their cards, but, so does your hero power. Your hero power gives you armor. The Death Knight is probably a better way to get armor than spending a whole card on the 6 armor. So I think it really depends on whether or not you can recruit a good minion, but even, if you get a good non-battle cry 4-drop, then it's essentially 6 armor for free, with a few minor mechanics exceptions. But, I don't know, it could be okay, but I think it really, really depends. Ironwood Golem, I think I like quite a bit better. If only because, it's 4 mana, 3/6 taunt. That's a bit better than normal. A druid shouldn't have too much trouble getting 3 armor, though, it's not necessarily convenient, especially in the early game. But I feel like if you're running this card, you're just trying to survive the early game. Bark Skin? Oh, I question Bark being used as a skin substitute and that being worth 3 armor, but that's just from a flavor standpoint. I don't see it being great. I don't know, maybe if you cast it on a Gadgets and Auctioneer, it could be alright. But Druid already has no shortage of big guys. Now, it can be used for 1 mana to upgrade the Spellstone, which it's listed down here. 4 and then 6 is the next upgrade, which is, some powerful single target removal for Druid. So I think that the Spellstone, the Jasper Spellstone, will definitely see play. Grizzled Guardian, I don't know, feels a little slow to me. Like if you pay 8 mana and then it gets silenced or polymorphed or hexed or sapped, or really anything that prevents its death rattle from going off, that's pretty bad. So, I don't know, I'll be surprised if this sees any serious play. But again, not a Druid expert. Greedy Sprite can be stolen by Shadow Madness, but that looks like basically its only weakness to me, other than the fact that Druid already has a lot of ramp cards, and I don't know that it's worth running over, say, a Mire Keeper, At least, until Mire Keeper rotates out. It could see some play in Standard. Um, and, for the current game plan for Druids, I think it's just straight up inferior to Jade Blossom, because past a certain point, once you have 10 mana, it's just a 3 mana 3/1. That's it. So, even Wild Growth you can just cycle. Jade Blossom you can, summon an 8/8 or whatever you're up to by the time you have it. But this does kind of become just a 3 mana 3/1, which is pretty abysmal. Branching Paths is interesting, but honestly doesn't feel super strong to me. I could be wrong. And I think that if you choose gain 6 armor twice, it will upgrade the Spellstone twice, but I'm not positive on that. Astral Tiger I like flavor-wise. Not sure that it's strong enough to see any real play, though. Because at 4 mana, Druid generally either wants to be flooding the board and getting lots of stats, or continuing to ramp. Or, playing Fandral, or some other high-impact card. And this is really just... it gives you more resources long-term, but Druid isn't at all hurting for long-term resources at the moment, at least while Jade is in Standard. So I'd be surprised if this sees any significant play, at least until the rotation. Twig of the World Tree. I don't know, the Death Rattle is very powerful. Kind of like a literal Astral Communion on a stick, except you don't have to dump your hand, and instead you just have to get rid of this pesky 5 durability. It has been pointed out online that, you can just use Medivh, though, and instantly kill it and replace it. It'll be insane, though, if, Rogue gets it from a Swashbuckle or something. And Sibuha, the Fungal Lord, has some meme potential. Don't know about much else. I'm sure that someone who's really good at finding combos will find something good with it. Okay, Hunter. This is a bit more my wheelhouse. And I know, you're all looking right down here, but we'll start up here. Flanking Strike. 4 mana, 3 damage to a minion. Summon a 3/3 wolf. Pretty solid card. It's really, I think, only competing with, I don't know, Houndmaster. And goes away to making some of the more ridiculous cards, trying to force a spell-only Hunter archetype. So, if this archetype is ever going to exist, this is exactly the kind of card it needs. But honestly, this is good enough, I think, to play in most mid-range Hunter decks, as it's really just kind of a better Phoenix from Ungoro, but with some beast synergy. Cave Hydra? Don't know. I mean, if it's not answered on curve, then you can buff it up with a Highmane, or if you're feeling particularly memey, Dinomancy. Or really just anything that buffs it up. If you get this to be a 3/5, I think that's insane. I don't know if you can get it up to a 3/5 quick enough before it just dies. Before, a couple of guys trade into it, and now you've just, played a meh 3-drop. Candle Shot. I'm not sure if the weapon is immune, it doesn't lose durability, or if the hero is immune. The card text is not quite clear on that. Either way, 1 mana, 1/3 weapon. Hunter doesn't have the best early game board control, which it desperately needs, so I think that Candleshot is probably good enough to see play, especially with when you can combo it with things like Hunter's Mark later in the game. So yeah, I'd be surprised if this didn't see play, because Hunter has been really hurting for an earlier weapon ever since Glaive Azooka rotated. Wandering Monster. So like, Wandering Monster and Cave Hydra could be pretty good. Now granted, it would be defending, not attacking, but as far as anti-aggro goes, Cave Hydra could be alright from Wandering Monster. I feel like there might be a few too many 1/1s and 2/2s and 2/1s for Wandering Monster to really shine. So people have been talking about this one being pretty powerful. I'm honestly not sure how good it is, because a random 3 cost, that is a really swingy pool. And I have not done the math to figure out what the average is. There will be some times when it feels really good, like when you get a Felguard or whatever. Is that 3 mana? I think that might be 4 mana. I don't know. But there are times when it'll feel really good, like when you get, I think, the Shaman 2/8 taunt for 3 mana. Like, that'll be insane, since you get 3 mana plus 3 overload worth of stuff for 2, and it's a big taunt that's defending you. But then there's times when you just get, like the random 1/1, no effect. Doesn't even kill the thing that was attacking you, and now you've played a 2 mana card and dealt half of the Firefly's HP that was attacking you, and that'll just feel really bad and possibly lose you the game on the spot. Skeeping Oozling, I don't know, I mean, if it was 5 mana, maybe, but at 6 mana, I just think that you have far stronger options in general. And I don't think that there are really enough death rattles that justify it. Maybe like Rat Pack could be decent. 6 mana, 5/4, death rattle, summon a bunch of 1/1s. Depends on how easy it is to clean up the 1/1s afterwards. Lesser Emerald Spellstone, and then it upgrades into these. I don't know, I mean, you do have to play secrets for it, and Hunter secrets can be kind of situational. I think it does go far towards making a ridiculous no minions Hunter deck work, but excuse me. But I'm not sure if it can find a home in mid-range Hunter. I mean, I guess even getting 3/3/3s for 5 is alright. Probably depends on how much AoE there is in the meta. Since, I mean, like, Dragonfire Potion follows this right up. Even something just like Abyssal Enforcer curb stomps it hard. To my side, I was disappointed when I saw this card. I have to admit. Like, if you could always get 2 Animal Companions for 6 mana, I don't think it would be horrible. But I don't see a no-minion Hunter deck working all that well in the foreseeable future. So, for now at least, I don't think that this card has a use. The sad reality is that I will probably end up crafting both it and the Hunter legendary weapon. But I don't see it being all that good. It's just that I personally would rather have Hunter cards than good cards, which I guess might be pretty much every Hunter main at this point. Crushing Walls. Really like the flavor. Feel like it might be a bit overcosted if... I mean, it does curb stomp something like Big Priest, or I mean, I guess it doesn't quite curb stomp Big Priest, but it's really good against a deck like Big Priest, Recruit Warrior, if that ends up being a thing. So if there are lots of big minions, if this isn't a very wide meta, then I can see it being okay. It does concern me that after using 7 mana, and you're only getting rid of 2 minions, and then your opponent can just play out another, and okay, now you have to deal with that one. So, I don't know. I don't think that it's quite as terrible as all the people on the internet have been saying, but I'm not saying that it's great. Legendary weapon. A lot of value in a deck that, again, I don't think quite works. And you still don't really have consistent card draw for that type of deck, so that's another thing. You're playing an inherently reactive style, but no card draw. So, this gets you some cards in hand. Deathstalker Rexar can get you some cards in hand, but in general, I'm just not convinced. Now, Kathrina Winterwisp, I think will be fun to play around with. I don't know that she will make any actual meta decks possible, but I'm definitely excited to play with her. So I've got mixed feelings on the Hunter set overall. I think that things like Flanking Strike, Candle Shot, Cave Hydra maybe, could be pretty good. So, the commons. Don't know how excited I am about everything above common, though. Okay, Mage. 2 mana, possibly draw a card. I do worry, though, that you might have to give up things like Frostbolts and Fireballs if you want this to be at all consistent. And also, secrets are kind of low cost. So I think that Raven Familiar really depends on what other decks are in the meta and what decks you as a mage want, and what cards, what spells as a mage you really want to be giving up to get consistency. Because, compare this to, say, Arcanologist. You've got the Beast tag, which is largely irrelevant for mage. -1 health, which is considerably more relevant than the Beast tag, and draws you guaranteed a secret, so I don't know, this feels far worse than Arcanologist to me. Arcane Artificer. Now this one looks really strong to me. It's basically just life gain for mage. Obviously its stats aren't much to speak of, but it's also an elemental, so you could put it in an elemental deck with Frostlich Jaina, and it can maybe bridge you to that turn 9, so that you can play your Frostlich and start spamming out all the life-gaining free elementals from your hero power and stuff. Shifting Scroll. This one I have not seen. I guess it was probably revealed today. Transform it into a random mage spell. I don't think that this is good. I think it's more the Shifter Xeris of spells. Because, occasionally you'll get exactly what you need, but occasionally you'll get, exactly what you would need next turn, but then when next turn rolls around, now it's an Arcane Missiles or a Shatter or whatever. So I feel like you'd probably be better off just putting a consistently good spell in the deck over a Shifting Scroll. I do think that's a fun, flavorful card, but I don't know about it being competitively all that great. Though it can make things even more LOL random if you get it from like a Kabbalist tome. Lesser Ruby Spellstone. Yeah, it goes in elementals only, so it is a much cheaper Kabbalist tome in an elemental deck, so I think the Elemental Mage is shaping up to be alright this expansion. So yeah, I expect this to see play. Especially with stuff like Leyline Manipulator, which synergizes really well with Lesser Ruby Spellstone, and then the upgraded versions. Explosive Runes. Snipe that can go face seems pretty good. um, and I think that this will see play. Though I guess it depends on if it fits in with the mage's game plan and if they can find room in the deck. Which I guess is true of every card, technically, so it sounds a little that I say it, but we'll see, we'll see. Leyline Manipulator. So, synergizes well with Babbling Book. This is where me not playing Mage really comes in. That obviously synergizes with Lesser Ruby Spellstone. The thing is, you do want to be playing this on curve most of the time, I think. I mean, it's not terrible off curve if you're getting a discount on a lot of spells, but or cards. Can also be used, I've seen, to help Exodia Mage. If you Simulcrum, or however you pronounce it, some stuff, then technically those copies didn't start in your deck, so it should, in theory, give you like some free Sorcerer's Apprentices. Deck of Wonders, really memey. Not sure on how viable it will be. It doesn't say targets chosen randomly, but are they? I mean, I would assume. But I don't know. So, I mean, 5 mage spells for 5 mana. Obviously, a good deal mana-wise. Just, who knows if those will be ones that you want at targets you want at times you want. So yeah, I'm unsure on this card. I hope it doesn't see competitive play. But it could. Dragon's Fury. Seems pretty good for like a controlling mage. The only problem being that you have to run mainly big spells for it to really be consistent and worth it. 6 mana, draw a ton of cards. Your opponent has to take care of this immediately. Seems pretty good. Eleneth does to me. I mean, worst case scenario, it's 6 mana, draw 3 cards. The only concern that I have is if your opponent can stall, despite you drawing all the cards. Seems like you might be able to fatigue yourself really easily. And I don't think that Mage really has a way to add cards back into its deck. And I don't remember if the scrolls from Deck of Wonders make you draw another card. They must make you draw another card when you draw them, or else it would just be terrible. And 9 mana, get a board full of 5/5s if you're playing Big Mage. Could be alright. Not sure if it's what Mage is looking for. Also kind of surprised that it summons 5/5 dragons instead of 5/5 elementals. I mean, I know that its name is Dragon Caller, but I mean mechanically. Kind of surprised. Oh yeah, see? Draw a card, cast this when drawn. So, yeah. Okay, I'm a little nervous about this card in Wild because Silverhand Recruit Paladin is already really strong. Might be a bit slow for that deck, though, which is my only solace. Especially since it's a Death Rattle, not a Battle Cry. Could be interesting with... Wait, nope, never mind. I was thinking with Wandering Monster, but it's a 2-drop, not a 3-drop. Could be interesting, though, with anything that summons you a random 2-drop. I mean, I can just see now in Wild the clip of someone playing Piloted Shredder, and then this gets popped and it mills them or something. Okay, Benevolent Djinn. looks alright to me, especially with some buffing. Now, I don't know how viable hand buff Paladin will be just at all. But, if you can buff this once or twice, a 4/6 that heals you each turn could be alright. Potion of Heroism. I mean, it's cycle, so this looks alright to me. Don't know what you would ideally cast this on, but the fact that it also draws a card, it's like a good version of Purify, is my initial thought. Again, I could be completely wrong on every single card, but throat getting a little dry. But I think that this is alright. Since it replaces itself. Because, I mean, like, the main problem with something like Hand of Protection is that you're going down a card and not necessarily getting really a full card's worth of value out of it. But with this, it's a bit more costly tempo-wise, but you replace the card in your hand, so. Unidentified Maul. So, I think that this is alright. And obviously there can be some insane stuff. I mean, Sacred Maul, kinda but the other three look really good for 3 mana to me. Like, I mean, this is kind of a redistributed muster for battle. This is really annoying if you already have a wide board. And then this also, like these, if you have wide boards, which, Paladin often does, then can be pretty good. So, Paladin Spellstone I'm less impressed with. I mean, yeah, 2 mana 6/6 taunt. Like, just compare this to, say, Thing from Below, which can be easily a 0 mana 5/5 taunt, doing something that Shaman already does well, which is, play out a lot of totems. See, like, if you compare it to this, and remember, you have to gain the health while this is in your hand. It can't just be during the game, like with Thing from Below. So I think if you just compare Lesser Pearl Spellstone to Thing from Below, then it becomes pretty clear that it's not a super high power level card. Again, in my opinion. Crystal Lion, I think, yeah, could be pretty good. And a Silverhand Recruit type Paladin. On turn 6, you could play Stand Against Darkness plus this, which is, a lot of stats for turn 6. I just feel like it might not entirely fit with the game plan of a deck that wants to spam out a lot of Silverhand Recruits. I mean, obviously a cheap 5/5 is always, usually good, but... And, the Divine Shield, also good, but... I don't know, I'm not sure. It depends. I think Crystal Lion depends less on how good it is as a card, and more on how good Silverhand Recruits are as an archetype. Now, Call to Arms, I think, could be insane. I mean, at best, you're getting 6 mana worth of minions for 4 mana, or even better, if you have, like, ones that are... if you have ones that are overstated for their cost. Level up. I don't know. I mean, in Wild, I feel like Quartermaster is usually just better. Again, I haven't actually played as Dude Paladin in Wild. And in Standard, I don't think that you can really spam enough Silverhand Recruits at the moment to make this worth it, because they still cost 1 from your hand, even if you're getting them with, like, the Jailer. So, I'd be surprised if this sees any play in Standard. considerably less surprised if it sees it in Wild, where there are things like Muster for Battle. And I think that this is an interesting value card. Not sure that Paladin is really hurting for another weapon, but I can definitely see it being used in some Mimi combo decks. And Lanessa, It does, I think, recast all of them, though. So, like, you could get a card draw off of Potion of Heroism. But, then it's just so... it's still 7 mana, and if they can silence it or something, I mean, it does synergize well with stuff like Spike Ridge Steed. It could see play. I just don't know that an archetype that supports it will exist. Okay, Priest, Unidentified Elixir. I think that most of these are decent. I just don't know if it will fit into a game plan that Priest wants to play, because Priest has some really good game plans this expansion. And I'm not sure if any of these really fit into it that well. I mean, like Elixir of Purity, Elixir of Hope, and situationally Elixir of Shadows can all be insane. And even Elixir of Life can be good, but I don't know, I mean, I guess you could put it on like a Northshire Cleric to be pretty annoying. Psionic Probe. I can see being used as more a thing to refresh Shadow Reaper Anduin's hero power than anything else. Gilded Gargoyle. I'll be honest, this card does look like utter trash to me. I mean, it works well, again, to refresh Shadow Reaper Anduin's hero power. Priest doesn't really have a problem with that in the first place, though. And it also is vulnerable to Potion of Madness in the Priest Mirror. So it can be like kind of easily stolen, it doesn't trade well. So it's like you're giving up a lot of tempo on turn 3, which is a rough turn to be giving up tempo on for a lot of decks. So that you can get something out a turn earlier, maybe. Could be wrong, this could be a new Priest staple. I don't know, but my initial gut reaction without giving it a whole lot of thought was that this card isn't that great. Now, this could be an interesting card to get, though, from something like Wandering Monster. Since, it might be enough to kill whatever's attacking you, so, then there's that trade. And then you get a coin, which could be a much, much needed tempo swing for Hunter. Whew. Dustbreaker, I think is a good card. I think is not as good as the people in the Reddit threads think it is. Mostly because it damages your own board. And Priest already has a lot of AoE if it's looking for a longer, more control-y archetype. So, I don't know, I think that this will see play. I just don't think that it's as super insane OP broken as everyone is saying. If the Priest Spellstone sees play, I think it'll only be in Standard. Although, it is a nice follow-up to Shadow Essence, so maybe. It's really all I have to say on it. I can only, as of right now, see it, seeing play in Big Priest, but we'll see. Twilight's Call seems pretty good to me in some kind of Quest Priest deck. We'll see if it's any good. in Wild, it could bring back, like, Cairn and Sylvanas and all kinds of really high value death rattles. But even if it's just pulling, like, a Crystalline Oracle and a Loot Hoarder, it's not terrible. Psychic Scream, now this is a good board clear. Like, forget Duskbreaker. Psychic Scream is the one that I'm worried about. Because it provides really good stall. Granted, it does somewhat lessen the value that you get from playing Shadow Reaper Anduin on 8. But it can create kind of a virtual card advantage, even though long run value-wise, yeah, you're giving your opponent a lot. If they've got 1 card in hand, 6 on the board, and you've got 6 cards in hand, you play this, you've created card advantage, so, that I think that this will be a pretty strong and played card. Assuming that Dragonfire Potion being in the meta doesn't just make this irrelevant. But it also gets around death rattles and all that, so overall I think it's a very strong card. Huge tempo swing, potentially, and more importantly, it can create a good amount of card advantage. Twilight Acolyte, I think, is insane, since it's essentially removal. Like, it's basically mind control. I mean, maybe not quite mind control, but, you're essentially stealing your enemy's minions, at least from a vanilla stat line perspective. And then, oh hey, the enemy minion, if it has a nice effect, now it has 2 attack, so, turn 9, play this on their whatever big thing they have. Now you've got a really big vanilla minion, and now, whoop, Cabal Shadow Priest, and now you have the really nice effect as well, so Twilight Acolyte, I think, will be an insane card. Dragon Soul, I'm somewhat less hyped about. I mean, I hate priests, so I'm not really hyped about them getting good cards. But I don't think that Dragon Soul will be super great. I could be wrong. Again, depends on how much weapon removal there is. Over the course of the game, if you're emptying and refilling your hand, getting all the 5/5s, obviously that's really good. But I'm not sure. Temperous. So, moving on. Temperous, I don't even know how to evaluate. I will leave this to the Johnnies of the world once it's released. I mean, this card does look like a lot of fun for people who like combos. It does present a very interesting puzzle to solve. But, we'll see. Kobold Illusionist could be good, especially in a Death Rattle type rogue. It does give some information on your hand, but I think that it's alright. Don't think that it's super ultra high tier, but could see fun. Or could see play in kind of like a fun Death Rattle rogue type deck. Cheat Death, I think, is going to be pretty good. Doesn't synergize the best with some of like the lower cost pirates, but I don't know, even getting another Burgle for the 2 mana that it costs to play Cheat Death isn't the worst thing in the world. Sudden Betrayal could be alright. I don't know, though. Shiny Finder, I think, could see play. I mean, it's a 2 mana 3/1, so obviously not the best stat line in the world, but drawing cards is powerful. And Rogue does have Kingsbane. So I think that Kingsbane plus Cavern Shiny Finder and some weapon buffs could be just insane. Elven Minstrel, I think, is a ridiculously strong card. Since, I mean, it's 4 mana, not too difficult to combo. So 4 mana, 3/2, draw 2 cards. That is insanely high in power level. I think this could even be the best card that Rogue got this expansion. Lesser Onyx Spellstone. Again, pushing the Death Rattle stuff. And if there is a good Death Rattle deck, then Greater Onyx Spellstone, I think, will be pretty good. And looks like he does not have the spiders, but I mean, this is a 4 mana 16/16, kind of. Think that this will be a pretty strong card. Not a whole lot else to say about it, just it's a lot of stats for its mana, you just have to be a bit patient. I do think that it gets edged out, though, if the Force slot is competitive by Elven Minstrel. Evasion, probably sees play in some kind of combo rogue. The thing is, it doesn't prevent any damage that you are going to take, so... Yeah, Kingsbane, I think, very strong. I mean, it's 1 mana for a 1/3, which, I was saying in Hunter could be playable just as is, almost. But, you throw a deadly poison on it, suddenly it's a 3/3 that you can find again, and, then you find it again, it's a 1 mana 3/3. And Sonya, if she had stealth, I'd be a lot more confident that she's good. But unless, I mean, if her effect triggered on her own death, that would be insane. But, I don't know, some serious combo potential here. Really what you want to do that I think is not play this unless you're about to trade in a bunch of minions that you want the 1/1 copies of. So yeah, I could definitely see some play. I'm just not super creative. Kobold Hermit does not strike me as super great, though you do get to choose the totem. So it could just be a 2 mana 1/1 plus an 0/2 and you get the spell damage. So it could be alright. If it does see play, like 90% of the time they're going to be picking spell power. 8 damage to a minion, Overload 3. I have not seen this one yet. Overload 3 is kind of a lot, especially with Lava Shock not being in Standard. Could be interesting on a control-type Shaman, though. Similarly, Healing Rain. If you have a really wide board, I don't see it being great. I don't know if it will randomly target characters that are at full health. So, if you have a full board, but all of your minions are at full health, will it just restore 12 to your face? I don't know. But again, could make a control-type Shaman viable. And the Sapphire Spellstone, 7 mana is pretty expensive. And I feel like if you're already sticking some minions that are worth summoning the copies of, you might have already been winning, to be honest. But, I don't know, it's hard for me to get excited about this one. And it's a really cool effect, so it's weird that it's so hard for me to get excited, but I don't know, it's just not doing it for me in my very detailed and nuanced explanation. Primal Talismans could be alright in a, go wide, bloodlusty deck. But basic totems aren't all that great if you're not... I mean, I don't know, it gives you a sticky board, but not really the kind of sticky board that, as a hunter main, I like. Um, so, I don't know, maybe, but I'm not confident that this will see much of any play. Murmuring Elemental, excellent combo potential, and it's an Elemental, so would go great in Elemental Shaman. This one I think will definitely see play. Can even play it with Deathseeker Thrall, which then gives you a 4 mana evolve on all of this. So this plus Thrall, that's a 7 mana combo, and this is already a 6/6. Then just anything else that you have on the board is also huge now. So this fits into Elemental Shaman, this fits into Evolve Shaman. This card will definitely see play, in my opinion. Windshear Stormcaller. I don't know that Shamans have all 4 totems all that often. And let's see, so you have 4 totems, and you need a spot for this. So that's 5 spaces. Then Alakir comes, and that's 6 spaces. So you need to have all 4 basic totems, and at most 1 other minion for Windshear to be good. Which is why I'm not really sold on the card. Let's see. Unstable Evolution. This one I think could be pretty good. You could get some insane combos. And, if if you're playing Evolve Shaman or something and you top deck it when you're out of cards, as long as you have 1 minion, you can turn that into something super huge. And there is also a turn 1 kill going second that someone posted on the Reddit. That's super unlikely, but, kind of interesting and memey, so. The Rune Spear, I feel, just does not provide enough value for its cost. I mean, it can provide a lot of value, but not quick enough, so I don't know, maybe just not enough tempo for its cost is what I'm getting at. And the fact that the targets are random makes it way less reliable than I'd like for an 8 mana card. Grumble the World Shaker. Again, I feel is maybe a little win more, because if you have a bunch of good minions that you want to return to your hand at 1 cost on the board and you've stuck them, then feel like you are probably already winning. Okay, Warlock. 1 mana, 2/1, draw a card. Health is largely irrelevant this early in the game, and especially this little of it. So this, super good card. Vulgar Homunculus does clash with Keleseth Zoo decks, but in Blood Reaver Gul'dan decks, it's a 2/4 taunt demon for 2, slows down the game. I expect it to see play. Dark Pact, I think, could see play, especially in a deck that runs, I don't know, like Devilsaur eggs. Or in Wild, maybe just like you could come up with some kind of egg shaman running like Dark Pacts and whatever that card is from Ungoro, the 4/4, the like Vicious Pterodox or whatever. Removal, that's also heal. Pretty easy condition for Warlock, especially with the new cards that they're getting. Seems good. Possessed Lackey, I feel like this is in some ways just a worse Void Caller. Because with Void Caller, you at least had some control over, okay, I play it and there are these options in my hand. With this, it's any of them in your deck, so if you want to run stuff like Voidwalkers, then, it's kind of bad. Or even Vulgar Homunculi. 5 mana for 4/6 worth of stats with taunt only on 2/4 of them. Not the best. Hooked Reaver. Okay, I have not seen this one yet. 15 or less health, gain +3/+3 in taunt. Okay, so synergizes well with the self-harm. You could play this, then heal back up. Doesn't synergize quite so well with Blood Reaver Gul'dan, since this would just come back as a 4/4, which is a nice solid body. And also might not be something that you really want to play on curve, but it does have top tier meme quality because, as you can see, when it procs, it is indeed a 4 mana 7/7. So, Void Lord. Lots of value. Could be alright with Blood Reaver Gul'dan, though. I mean, really, it's just a lot of taunt for your opponent to get to. Though, again, if it gets hexed or polymorphed or silenced, it's just a 9 mana 3/9, or even worse, 0/1 taunt. Cataclysm, I think, could make some discard shenanigans viable, especially when paired with Malchezaar's Imp, as long as you can survive the potential of fatigue. Pretty good. Skull of Maneri. If your opponent has no weapon removal, super good. If your opponent has weapon removal, super bad. And that's really all I have to say about it. Obviously with stuff like the Homunculus or the Void Lord, pulling those would be pretty good. Hooked Reaver, I mean, it's still, after the 5 mana that you paid for the weapon, it's still, a free 4/4. Possessed Lackey could be alright, but we will see. Anrin, the First Disciple, I'm just going to say way too slow. Really cool, just way too slow. So, Warrior, Unidentified Shield. Again, I don't value armor gain all that much, so if you say 5 mana 5/5 plus 1 mana for Ironhide, but it's wrapped up into 1 card, okay, that's alright. Serrated Shield, I think, is a pretty good option. Spiked Shield, also okay. Kind of like an Arcanite Reaper plus an Ironhide, but smushed into 1 card. Tower Shield depends on how strong Armor Synergy Hunter is. So I don't think it's a terrible card, but I also don't know that I think that's all that great, because it does seem a little slow to me. I mean, if Control Warrior can become a thing again, this is, I guess, the type of card it would run, but I guess like Rune Shield you could compare to Shield Maiden of Wild fame. Gem-Studded Golem, I don't think that I've seen this before. Seems like a pretty good stalling tool. 6 mana 5/9 taunt. Don't care so much about whether or not it can attack. Kobold Barbarian is like a ogre. What was it? Ogre Brute? I think it's in Wild now, but there's an ogre with the same stat line, and it has like a 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. So this is that, but just with even less control. Because like with Ogre Brute, if the options were too bad, you could always just decide to not attack at all. And, you still have like the 50% chance of hitting the thing that you wanted. But, I don't know, so this kind of just strikes me as a worse Ogre Brute. Let's see, Gather Your Party. Could be alright if a big old Recruit Warrior is viable. I don't know that it will be. And Lesser Mithril Spellstone. A lot of dudes, but I am a little worried about how slow it is as far as the card's viability goes. Dry Whisker Armor, though. Really good with armor synergy, really good with just as some health gain. It's like Cult Apothecary, but or however you pronounce it, but good. Reckless Fury. Eh, could be a pretty good board clear. Depends on how much you need your armor. Bladed Gauntlet. Again, could be great at minion removal. Depends on how much armor you have, how much you need. It is an interesting take, these two cards, on armor as a resource instead of it just being health, and then being a resource in the way that health is a resource. Not sure how it, like, especially Bladed Gauntlet, not sure how it compares to Shield Slam. Woe Cleaver, again, strikes me as kinda slow, but if you can stall out the game with spells and weapons and stuff, then it could be alright. And Geosculptor, good value card. All that I really have to say about that. Okay, so Marin I'm not going to bother reviewing because it's already been out. Gorgonzola, as was pointed out on Reddit, good way to get multiple copies of key minions. Think that it has potential to see play in some kind of combo deck. Obviously 3 mana 2/2, not the best stat line, but you know, if you really want an extra copy of a minion, does not seem like a terrible way to go about getting it. This is just pure meme. I'm sure that someone will come up with some kind of funny deck with King Togwaggle. It does kind of take up 5 of your opponent's mana to swap back, I believe. Yeah, 5 mana. So, you know, you could just call it like a 3 mana 5/5 net mana wise, but I don't see it seeing serious competitive play. Master Oakheart, I'm also not familiar enough with the set and all the possible combos that could come from recruiting a 1, 2, and 3 attack minion to judge it quite yet. But it's definitely interesting enough that I won't dismiss it as worthless. The Darkness reminds me kind of that one, what is it, Dark Depths? There's a magic card where you get a huge flyer, but only after a certain amount of time or whatever. This does potentially punish decks that try to cycle super quickly. In particular, I think that it punishes Reno Priest, or rather, Razakis Priest, if you're playing Standard. Just because, first of all, it prevents their Kazakus or their Raza from being activated. Then, it also turns into a huge minion, potentially, which I don't think will be affected by, like, their AoE board clears while dormant. I could be wrong on that, but if it's dormant like Sherazan and Sherazan works like I think it does, then I think that, like, a Psychic Scream wouldn't shove this away. I just don't know about its viability against, like, against an aggro deck. This is essentially 4 mana do nothing. So this is this is a tech legendary, is my view on it. Carnivorous Cube I'm really excited to try out in Hunter with Play Dead. Might be a little too slow, but if it's not, it's insane value. It does fall prey to the same weaknesses that some other things do, like Polymorph and Hex. Which is why I would only want to combo it with, like, Play Dead, Feign Death, Terror Scale Stalker. I'd want to get the 2 things immediately, and then if it survives, I get the 4 things total. So I really only see this getting any play in a deck that has Death Rattle activation, and I think the only class that can really reliably do that right now is Hunter. Although I guess it could see play in Warlock, like with, what was it called? The Healy Dark Pact. Rummaging Kobold. I don't know that any of the legendary weapons are actually good enough for a 3-mana 1/3 that gets one back to see play, or even any of the non-legendary weapons. I don't know, it just strikes me as a little mediocre. Like, good value, but awful tempo. Spiteful Summoner could be good if there are any big spell archetypes. Otherwise, kinda bad. Super swingy, though. There's like a huge range of outcomes. Grand Archivist, kinda similar, but like it could work with some stuff like, I don't know, the Warrior Spellstone or the Shield, that's probably okay. Okay, I was right here. Arcane Tyrant strikes me as decent in Druid. I just don't know that Druid wants it, because Druid can do a lot better than decent at the moment. Dragon Hatcher, 9 mana, 2/4, play something that you would have played at 9 or 10 mana anyway. I mean, it is a must answer. And then there's also a dragon on the board, which also could be a must answer. But again, you're making it to 9 mana, you have your dragons. I feel like it could be a little bit of a win more card. I'm not sure. Void Ripper, super interesting. I can't say off the top of my head what type of deck it would go in, but super interesting. So if I open this, I'm definitely hanging on to it. Shimmering Courser, which it has already been noted on Reddit that you can now, as soon as the expansion comes out, make a Unicorn Priest. I'd be interested in trying this in a Dinomancy deck. It's just that a Dinomancy deck at the moment is not good. But, like, if you get a Shimmering Courser, plus the new, plus, like, a Cave Hydra, I think that you could get an interesting Dinomancy deck that's super slow and dies to everything. And Corridor Creeper. I mean, again, if you just compare it to Thing from Below, where the condition applies even if it's, in your deck, Corridor Creeper I cannot see being good. Because you have to have a wide board, then you have to have this in your hand, then your wide board has to go away, and then you get a cheap 5/5. So that's just a bunch of stars aligning, and even then, you just have kind of a cheap 5/5, so I don't know, I don't see Corridor Creeper seeing any real play. It is a bit of a nerf, though, to like the 7 mana evolve spot, so. Feral Gibberer. It doesn't have charge, for, I guess, obvious reasons, and 1 health isn't a lot. Granted, if you can't answer it, it gets out of control quickly, but I feel like it might be just a little too easy to answer. I mean, if you play it on turn 1, then already, like, Rogue, Mage, Druid, any of the ping classes can just take it out for a hero power. I was just thinking about its interaction with Potion of Madness, how that would be kind of funny. But, yeah, I think that this is just too easy to kill. Or even if you do get a bunch of them, then, just like Spirit Lash, Maelstrom Portal, they're all gone. Lone Champion could be alright in a deck, maybe, but I'm not convinced. It just seems a little mediocre. Especially with the condition that you already be losing, essentially. Summon a random 2-cost minion for your opponent. There are some pretty bad 2-cost minions. I mean, like, Hungry Dragon was pretty bad, but I feel like this card could have potential. Furbolg Mossbinder. 5 mana 7/7, kind of. Doesn't seem great to me. Ibon Dragonsmith. I don't know, maybe in a dragon deck, but again, doesn't seem great to me since, like if you don't have a weapon in hand, then it's just a 4 mana 3/4 dragon. Gravel Snout Knight. Might be okay in a Recruit Paladin type deck. And is also, like a decent drop-in wild from Mounted Raptor or whatever. As far as seeing just play as a 1-drop, feel like you probably don't generally get enough. I feel like this card is 100% meant to be recruited, and not at all meant to be played from hand. Which, of course, means that, the times that you draw it before you recruit, it's not great. Kobold Monk. I don't know, like if Burn Mage is being a huge problem, but then it really only just heals you for 6 while the Mage directs some burns at the Monk. Though what would be really annoying is if you get Anti-Magic Shell, the Death Knight card, and then play it on this. So then it can't be targeted by spells or hero powers, and you can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. So, like if it's Burn Mage or like Exodia Mage, then they can basically just give up. But that is some super unlikely aligning of the stars. Plated Beetle I'm excited to experiment with as a hunter. Again, nice defensive stat line. See, like if I want to try a Dinomancy hunter, which I think that I kind of do, just looking at the cards. I think I want to give Dinomancy hunter a shot again. But this is some life gain for hunter. It's not great life gain, but it is life gain. It's decent stats for its mana cost. It's nice and defensive if you can buff it up, like with a Houndmaster or with Dinomancy or with, an actual competitive card. But, yeah, Plated Beetle I think will find its way into some hunter decks. If not meta hunter decks, then at least my hunter decks. And Shrieking Shroom I don't see living long enough to be worth it in most cases, but I mean, hey, if it summons a couple Gravel Snout Knights, and you're pretty good, you're pretty well off. Okay, the common cards. Guild Recruiter. Seems pretty swingy and has the potential to not be that great. Again, depends on how much of your low end you can eliminate and how good your 4-drops are, I think. I don't like a 7 mana 3/3 Death Rattle. Just right off the bat, I don't. Especially because I don't know they're... I don't know, just there's too much that can go wrong playing a 7 mana 3/3 Death Rattle. Hoarding Dragon. 2 coins could be kind of a big deal. So I'd be nervous playing this. Maybe in like a super tempo focused dragon deck where also you could do something about the death rattle, but I don't know. Cursed Disciple looks like straight up garbage to me. It's a slightly sticky Magma Rager for 4 mana. Doesn't seem super great. Fungal Mancer, again, doesn't seem super great. I mean, especially if your board gets cleared, then yeah, you really want to play a 5 mana 2/2. Sleepy Dragon, I think, is meant to be recruited, not necessarily played from hand. Kobold Apprentice could be alright, but I feel like it's just Flame Juggler, like a worse Flame Juggler. Deals more random damage, but also has a much worse stat line, so. Boisterous Bard. Don't know that its effect is really needed at its mana cost, is the thing. Corrosive Sludge, I guess if you just really hate weapons and want to definitely be able to destroy them whenever they come up. But, I mean, if there's no weapon, then it's just a 5 mana 5/5, which isn't terrible, but isn't great. That being said, a 5/5 is a big enough threat to actually be a threat, so, you know, could be alright. Dire Mole, I think we'll see a lot of play in Hunter decks and in aggro beast token druid decks. Like this into Crackling Razormaw, pretty good. This into Mark of Yasharaj, pretty good. This into Houndmaster, or even really any buff, pretty good. So I think that Dire Mole, in addition to being hilarious flavor to me, I'm definitely looking forward to opening a couple of these, and it's a common, so I fully expect to get some of them. Dragon Slayer, I think is just insurance against a dragon meta, but probably won't see play because I don't see dragons overrunning the meta to the point where Dragon Slayer is playable. Fungal Enchanter. More neutral healing, that's pretty good. Like, see, if you compare Boisterous Bard and Fungal Enchanter, I feel like Fungal Enchanter just wins. Because, you know, it heals face, its stat line is better, can heal your minions for more, if, you know, as long as they've taken the damage. Obviously, with a board full of full health minions, the Bard is better, but I feel like Fungal Enchanter is just the better card. Green Jelly, too slow. It'll die super quickly, and, you know, you're probably only going to get 1/2 ooze. And on turn 5, you know, 1/2 ooze, Plated Beetle, I thought. Okay, it's listed up here with the rares for some reason, as well as being listed with the commons, so that's weird. Sewer Crawler. See, now this is what feels bad to summon off of Wandering Monster. And I honestly don't see this seeing really much of any play. I will assume that the 2/3 Giant Rat is a beast, but I think I'd rather just play a 3/4 beast for 3 than have the stats split across a beast and a non-beast. Shroom Brewer. Funnel Cakes, get your funnel cakes here. Haha, just kidding, just for me. I think that Shroom Brewer could see play. Definitely a decent arena card. I don't play arena, but this strikes me as definitely a decent arena card. Sneaky Devil. Depends on how much AoE there is. I mean, since it's stealth, you could kind of have it as a permanent, your minions have +1 attack. But 4 mana 2/2 that you can't really attack with, or else it'll just die super easily. Toothy Chest, same problem as Validated Doomsayer. Too easy for your opponent to just kill it for free before the start of your next turn. Trog Gloom Eater. I don't see being played. I mean, 5 mana, 1/5 taunt, poisonous. It's like that 5 mana, 2/5 poisonous, but it has taunt, so that makes it slightly better, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of slow, and Violet Worm I also don't see seeing much play. If the 1/1 grubs are beasts, then that's cool. Maybe you could have it in a beast recruiting deck as Hunter, but I know playing an 8 mana 7/7 from hand that fills your board with useless 1/1s in general seems questionable. Just seems too slow. And Wax Elemental, again, 0 attack minions. Very, very, very rarely actually good enough to be worth a card. Even with Divine Shield and Taunt. Stoneskin Basilisk? Maybe. Divine Shield and Poisonous is a potent combo, but it still probably only get its Poisonous trigger off once, and then just get pinged down by something. And then there are all these non-collectible cards. You know, I thought there was like a scorpion that killed tiny things that I saw on the Reddit list. So let's just go over to that real quick. Scorpomatic, is this like a dungeon run only card, or? Because there is also this, which, you know, could be a pretty decent tempo swing, depending on what's in the meta. Did I look at Kobold Monk? Yeah, I did. Okay. So assuming that that's a real card that's in the set, then I think that that one will also potentially see play. Kind of weird that it's a mech, but... So I guess that will end my card review. Thank you for watching, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with the new cards. Later.